machine learning. So cool, AI empowered. So cool, material science. So cool, algorithms. So cool. The hard thing about software isn't writing the code, but knowing what code to write.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for taking the time. I saw you a couple of times on stage. Great sharing, great insights. So I really look forward to the ride.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm really excited to be here. This is a really cool concept, the way that you've got this all set up. Feels like we're in a studio, even though it's just your car.
Thank you. Why don't we start with your background? What led you to where you are and who you are today?
Yeah, so I mean, I followed a pretty non-linear career path. I went to school for materials engineering, where I really fell in love with the combination of like materials science, physics, chemistry, engineering, mathematics, and I loved it. I was deciding whether or not I wanted to do a graduate degree in materials science, and I was studying phase transformations in titanium alloys.
Wow.
And my supervisor had built this like incredible massive Fortran application that solved partial differential equations. For all of you math nerds, you'll know what I'm talking about, but otherwise it's just mathematical programming. And I thought it was so cool that I kind of, I was in France, I was by myself, I didn't have a lot of friends out there, my language skills were just okay. So I wound up studying and self-teaching a lot of programming after I finished work every day, because I had to have something to do. And then whenever I graduated university, that turned into, it was at a bad time, 2015 in Calgary. So it was during a downturn, and I decided to pivot straight into tech after that. And then through that, I wound up working in big data SCADA systems for the oil and gas industry, measuring temperature, pressure, flow rates from wellheads and distribution lines throughout North America. And then that sparked an interest in data science and machine learning. A little bit, a few years before it had really taken off. Whenever it started to become accessible. Yeah, it was accessible. Like you could work with it, but it was at a time where there were still, really bespoke languages. You'd have to use like Cafe and stuff like that for deep learning. And it was just as it was really starting to get democratized. So I got introduced there kind of at a really opportune time. And then, yeah, like a lot of tech people, I had a side gig as well, doing contract work for development on the side. And that was how I synced up with Viewpoint investment partners. They were building a quantitative investment management company and had built most of their models, as finance professionals do, like largely in Excel. And they needed to turn that into an actual software system, because the models were, 10, 15, 20 gigabytes, and they were crashing the computers whenever they tried to open and update them, right? So originally the plan was just to do some contract work for them, but we wound up aligning on values, and they had a mission to democratize access to institutional grade investment management. I was really passionate about, low cost passive investing, or how low cost passive investing could be used to help out individuals, and they had a very similar experience and similar philosophy, just looking to kind of take those concepts to the next level. Anyways, so it was I never really intended to. So again, I took that like software engineering, data science background, and then applied it to the financial investment management industry. But I never really planned on getting to where I got to. Like I was engineering, and then software engineering, and then data science got in there, and then that turned into quantitative finance. And so it's all been a path kind of dictated not by any foregone plan, but just saying yes to things and being interested in a whole bunch of different areas.
Interesting. follow-up question. How is your French now?
Yeah, terrible. It's
Still terrible.
I learned. I lived in Texas whenever I was younger, where I studied Spanish, and then whenever I was learning French, I would always mix up French and Spanish, and then I was in France, and so would speak French predominantly, and I got like decent. I mean, my crowning achievement was I could hold a conversation in a crowded bar, and that was, I can't say that I said the right things or fully understood what anybody was saying all the time, but I could keep a conversation alive.
Awesome.
And so now I'm back to mixing up. I try to speak French, and I wound up speaking Spanish.
Awesome. Great. So you already mentioned about the Viewpoint, right? Viewpoint Investment Partnership. This is the company that you work for now. You are the SVP of Data Science and Engineering.
Yeah.
I'm particularly interested to hear more about how did you build up the financial engineering capacity, and what was the biggest challenges in doing that work?
Yeah, so Viewpoint Investment Partners, for a little bit of background, we manage about $500 million right now of investor capital, and we take a quantitative approach to doing that, right? That means that we take, techniques from data science and first principles understanding of how global financial markets work, and use, statistics, data science, artificial intelligence, coupled with that first principles understanding of economic theory to craft our investment decisions. And so to do that, if you think about what that requires, like the quantitative data science aspect is the ability to ingest all information from financial markets, prices, valuations, derivatives contracts from not just, North America, but we invest truly globally, right?
Mm-hmm.
So ingesting all of that information, running our algorithms, right? So there's going to be some machine learning, some conventional statistics, some deep learning. We're going to apply all of that, and then we'll get an output that's going to give us how we should be positioning our funds right now, right? How much money should we put in North American equities? How much money should we invest in commodities markets? How much exposure should we have to the Japanese yen, right? And our models will give us a target for all of that. So that's kind of what we do, and the how we do it is that we've built a end-to-end quantitative, call it AI empowered if you want, pipeline that's all the way from the data ingestion, so working with third-party data providers to ingest different data sets, structured and unstructured, centralize them into a data warehouse, a data lake actually. And then we're going to have our computational engines that are going to run through with a job orchestrator to actually run all of our models and update all of our internal indices and all of our models every single day, or more frequently, intraday as well as necessary. And then we'll run our trade systems that'll actually spit out how many shares of which different asset or how many futures contracts we should be buying and selling. So there's, our stack's predominantly written in Python for all of the quantitative work, and then for client-facing work, it'll be Angular and C#. So, the process has been one of, we've built everything in-house over the past 7 years now, so the entire platform is kind of designed bespoke to our business. The challenges are really, I always say that the hard thing about software isn't writing the code, but knowing what code to write. Mm-hmm. And the same applies for, the quantitative investment. It's a lot easier to build an algorithm than it is to do the research to understand what will actually be successful and where your edge is going to be. So I would say the biggest challenge is just that intersect, really understanding the investment landscape to a deep extent that you're able to actually encode that into algorithms and rules and understand where your corner cases are going to be. So I definitely think that the engineering aspect, while complex, the most important thing is actually being able to understand the fundamental domain and really, really deeply understanding what are the fundamental drivers in financial markets so that you can write code to handle that.
And you mentioned that you source the data from the third parties, right? I'm just curious to know more about how expensive is it?
Yeah, it's it's not cheap, but we've ultimately built our own kind of data distribution pipeline. So, you can go to Bloomberg or Thomson Reuters and pay for bespoke, really nice APIs that'll give you real-time access to every single data set that you want. And then that's going to cost you hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars. Or you can take the, more frugal approach, and which is what we've done, which is going to be a lot more delivery of flat files, scheduled delivery. We've built our own data ingestion layers over top of simpler, older architecture that's, battle tested, but rather than paying the big bucks for an extra layer that's going to provide you the APIs to easily access the data, we'll build our own APIs and then access the raw data for a lot cheaper.
As AI becomes more integrated into so many areas of our lives, and since finance and investment is close to you, so what are the ethical considerations we need to take into account when it comes to finance and AI or data science in a broader sense?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I would say that the biggest ethical consideration is the same ethical considerations that you have in, any automated decision-making process where people's financial future is at stake, right? At the end of the day, we have a fiduciary responsibility to our clients to be, investing their, what is their retirement assets ethically and responsibly, right? And, if you just think of the moral culpability, right? Let's say that we're running, call it $1 billion of exposure through our investment platform that we've built. If we simply take the easy road and don't personally vet every single decision that's been made, we are negligent. And, you can imagine calling up a client, calling up your mom and telling her that you lost her retirement savings. That is a huge moral responsibility that we have. And so AI can make things easier and faster and can empower the team. But at the end of the day, it's just simply unacceptable to say that you've lost investors' money because the model told you to, because AI algorithm told you to, right? Nobody will accept that. And so it really just is about that fiduciary responsibility, about that duty to the clients, that just because you can automate something, doesn't mean that you absolve yourself of the responsibility of confirming every decision and knowing why that decision was made.
Right. Keep talking about your passion, which is data science and AI, but what do you do about it off work? And that's YYC Data Society.
Yeah, it's the YYC Data Society. I like to say I spend my kind of days building up, our financial engineering and AI capabilities for a quant fund, and then evenings and weekends building Calgary's data science ecosystem. So the YYC Data Society, we started it, I think 2019 was when we officially launched. It was great timing right before the global pandemic. So we spent our first few years in virtually. But the goal of the organization is really to empower the Calgary data science, data engineering, and advanced analytics ecosystem, professionals, students, enthusiasts, and bring everyone together because, talk about passion. I believe that Calgary has a generational opportunity to become a global leader in applied data science and AI, because you look at the advantages that we have as a city, right? We have a really strong energy industry, natural resource production. They've been doing data science since it was called geophysics, right? So we've got a huge STEM professional working in industries that actually can have optimization and can really improve their efficiency using these technologies. We've got a great cost of living. We've got a great professional class. Calgary is still one of the few places in Canada that you can, have a great job. You can have an affordable cost of living. You can raise a family. And so all of these advantages combined with our STEM professional makes me think that Calgary has this opportunity to really advance data science and become, not just a national leader, but a global leader. And so, I think in order to do that, you do need top-down investment, and there's lots of groups and institutions doing that top-down investment. Alberta government's doing some good work in that. You've got groups like Alberta Machine Intelligence Institute taking that top-down approach. But you also need the bottom-up approach. You need that grassroots, right? Like the reason that cities are so successful, the reason that SF or Tel Aviv or Seoul is so successful is because you have these network effects of a lot of like-minded people all collaborating and working together and exchanging ideas, right? And the YYC Data Society, we want to be the mesh that connects the individuals who are in this space and allows them to exchange ideas, to meet each other, to do business together, and by doing that, we will, increase the number of connections, collisions, and help to, advance the data science AI practice within the city. So, we run a big conference every year, the YYC DataCon. That's our flagship event. It's going to be held at the BMO Center this year. We're looking to bring 2,500, 3,000 people
that's impressive.
Together. Yeah. So that's grown over the course of 4 or 5 years. Started virtually, and last year we did over 1,000 people at the Calgary Public Library and Platform Calgary, which we outgrew that space, sold out all of the tickets, and so now we're looking to grow and expand, and again, right, really like bring together all of the practitioners in the city. And we do other things. We consult on curriculum for some of the educational institutions. We run regular recurring events through the Meetup Network. We have a community support fund where we take some of our revenues and allocate them back towards other meetup communities to kind of decide how they want to spend that. And so we're really looking to, support the grassroots organization, both by running our own events and then also by, funding and supporting the other communities who exist in the city.
I look forward to the next big event that's going to be in February, I believe, right? The end of February?
Yeah, last day of February, first couple days of March.
Awesome. How difficult is it now, or maybe how easy is it now to get into the data science space? Like you said, you started few years ago, right? And it was like very different time, and now you have all the resources, you have all the tools, everything accessible.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't be able to get in, if you had just like fast forwarded my life like into, graduating today. I probably wouldn't be able to break in, because it's just gotten so much more competitive. So with all of the excitement around AI, it's caused a lot of people to, try and pivot into that industry. And like I said, Calgary has a lot of people, and Alberta has a lot of people with STEM backgrounds. And, data science is kind of a catch-all field for people with STEM backgrounds. So it's just gotten so much more competitive. And, now there's undergraduate degrees and graduate degrees for data science. And breaking into the field and getting your first job as a data scientist is just so much harder now than it was. So it's difficult. It's competitive. Now I think the best way that I think to break into the industry right now is actually more on the data engineering front. And this is a bit of a local. This is, I think, local to the Calgary, Alberta space, is that, the reason that a lot of like the big AI models are coming out of these big tech companies is because the big tech companies spent, 2 decades building out their technical infrastructure, their software engineering, their data engineering capabilities, and now you can build a model over top all of that. In Calgary, a lot of companies want to apply data science, they want to apply AI, but they haven't actually done the groundwork to build the plumbing necessary to actually extract insights from their data. So there's a big need for data engineering and for data-focused software engineering to actually build that plumbing and that infrastructure. And I think that that's a much more there's just more work that's required on that front than on the data science front. And so if you want to break into the field, I think that that's a more fruitful path, just because there's more opportunities, or there will be more opportunities as, industry starts to realize that it needs to invest in these, invest in the engineering capabilities of the firm before they can invest in AI, let's call it.
Interesting. As the data scientist and engineer, what gets you excited about recent fast, rapid development in AI? And on the flip side, what makes you concerned?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I feel like it's a little bit too cliche or too basic, but honestly, like, my answer is just like the speed and pace of development that we have now, and it just keeps on getting faster and faster. I mean, just powered by LLMs, and I'm sorry for going on about LLMs. I'm sure everybody's really tired of hearing it, but just like, I remember I first tried GitHub Copilot 6 months ago or maybe a year ago, and I was like, well, this is a waste of my time, right? Like, this is actually slowing down my development. And then I reinstalled it to give it another chance a couple weeks ago. Now it's embedded within your editor. You can specifically tell it what you want to do, and it can go through and make the changes directly for you. You can review the changes as in, just like you've got Git changes. And I don't even know whenever that was launched, because I was just like a pleb copying and pasting code into ChatGPT and Anthropic windows for a long time. But just like how fast that's gotten, and how good the math has gotten on that as well, and like the quantitative programming, and it's just continuing to democratize access, and just like the speed at which we can build new tools just keeps on getting faster and faster and faster. And yeah, like, there's some exciting things about, applying transformers for time series modeling, and whether or not there'll finally be breakthroughs on time series modeling that goes beyond traditional statistics, because ML and deep learning has really failed to create a bunch of benefits into the time series space, beyond what you can achieve with conventional statistics, at least in the financial space that I operate within. So there's excitement around the new tools, but really I always come back to first principles understanding, and using simple tools applied intelligently, and just how much more effective you can be with that today, and where that's going to get us to as our tool chains continue to become more and more embedded within our development environments. It's just, I see the pace of advancement just continuing to accelerate, and so it's exciting. It's an exciting time to be building things as you see new opportunities opened up in front of you, and there's nothing standing in your way.
Right. And I know definitely you work with startups, right?
Yeah.
And AI now is everywhere, and everyone talking about AI, and everyone is putting AI powered. So what would be your advice to startups to make sure that actually they are building something that valuable and makes sense for people, investors to put money in?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. This is going to be maybe a bit more of a tongue-in-cheek comment, but I almost think that AI is it's not a differentiator. It's almost table stakes, right? Yeah, sweet, you've built a few ChatGPT, a few API calls to OpenAI. That's not a differentiator. That's not going to get an investor excited about it, because everybody's doing it now. It's table stakes, right? And so focus again on not to say that you shouldn't be using AI, because of course you should. That's what I mean by it's table stakes. Everybody's doing it, but focus on what are the new problems that these tools allow you to solve, and kind of go back to first principles, right? How can I use this technology to solve problems that couldn't be solved before. And if you can make that case and articulate that case, like, it doesn't matter whether you do it by creating an novel auction algorithm, whether you're making API calls to Anthropic, like, no matter what you're doing, as long as you're solving a problem that humans have, you're going to be able to raise money. And if you think that, like, leaning into AI is going to cause people to change their perspective or FOMO in, I just think that time is past, and now every startup is using AI in some way. And so it's not, just to repeat myself, it's just no longer really a differentiator so much as it is table stakes.
Love it. You already touched upon Calgary, right, and opportunities here and why this is the great place, but can you elaborate a little bit more and go further? What do you see the future of Calgary when it comes to data science and AI?
Yeah, so it's funny, I'm not in the energy industry. I had a little bit of a background in the energy industry, but I do think that for Calgary to realize its potential, it needs to understand its natural advantages and what its strategic advantages are. And those are the energy industry, and we need to embrace the applications of this advanced technology, and we need our big energy companies, our Synovises, our Suncors, our TCs to actually invest in this technology. And if we do, we're going to create these network effects that's going to, make us the best city in the world for, for data science, for AI applied to physical resource, like natural resource extraction, the forestry industry, the mining industry, the energy industry, both conventional fossil fuels as well as renewables. I mean, we have that opportunity. So if we have our, the big, not just the startups, but also the big companies investing in this technology, we can create an ecosystem where we have the best professionals for that, and we're attracting talent from across the world to come and work with the best and brightest minds. And so once you have that, by leading with that key strategic industry, we'll then throw off a whole bunch of new opportunities for spin-off industries, both obviously, the most obvious ones are going to be like your clean techs and your energy techs, but then you're also going to be able to apply those skills and that knowledge into other areas: health tech, fintech, ag tech. And so I really do think that in order for us to achieve our natural, our potential, we need to understand that the energy industry provides us with a great opportunity to explore that potential, and understand that by investing in it, we can actually advance, not just that industry, but all of the, high-tech industries within Calgary, and then ultimately diversify our economy, right? So that we're not so constrained to the boom-bust cycle of what oil's trading at on any given day.
Great, I love it. I love the energy we have here in Calgary, the community, the ecosystem is growing, attracting more and more companies, more people, and I love that people have so much passion for developing the city, and you are one of them, and thank you for pushing the boundaries and making things happen. I really appreciate all your sharings and insights, and look forward to see you again on stage and learn more about data science and AI, and how we can use it to enhance our lives in all sectors. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.